So my name is Bob Bridge. I'm a volunteer with the Austin chapter of the Rice Alliance. Who is the Rice Alliance? Well, we're largely a set of who's the Austin chapter of the Rice Alliance. We're mainly alumni of Rice who are very interested in promoting entrepreneurship in the Central Texas region. So the group's been together since around 2003. Robert McKee, somewhere around here, is there he is, Robert, original founding chair for the group. And we do a number of events. We'll talk a little about that later. But I wanted to start off by thanking Josh Baer and the Capital Factory for hosting us. It's really appreciated. And so this event was organized by a group of volunteers. We may not want to volunteer to do this again. It's a lot of work. But I wanted to recognize those folks. If you can kind of raise your hand, we'll get to you. Anand Mutu, Byron Marcells, Doug Bain, Jenny Garcia is out, I think, in the lobby, Rick Airy, Tom Stevenson, and Wade Allen. So give them a round of applause. So we have a number of sponsors for the Austin chapter of the Rice Alliance who support us financially and help us subsidize this event. You can see on this list on the screen some of those. And after I get done running through all the sponsors, if you're here from one of those sponsoring groups, I ask you to stand up and at least say your name and affiliation. No elevator pitches, please. So we have a number of sponsors here from various law firms. You can Andrews Kurth, Hulsley, Valerie Listenhoff, Norris Rose Fulbright, more lawyers, Wilson Elkins, Wilson Cicini, Winston Attorneys. And then we have some different kind of names. Golden Frog, and Achillea, and Insperity, and Growth Zero. So, how do you say that, Jay?
Usually we say Aquila, but we do say if you mess with us, Aquila.
And we have a number of silver sponsors also. So if you're from a sponsoring organization, you can stand up and just give your name and affiliation. Yes.
Hi, I'm Amy Lindsay. I'm with the Assistant for Proud Kids sponsor, and we're excited for this event. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Others?
Bill Halsey.
Hi, I'm Bill Halsey, and I used to be with Halsey PC, but now I'm with Halsey Calhoun. Here's my partner, Joe Calhoun, over there. So,
Thank you. So if you didn't pick up a handout on the way in, you should. What we've tried to do in this handout is identify all of the entrepreneurial type organizations in Austin. And there's incubators and accelerators is the key focus tonight, but there's also other groups you can see on the left side, education and networking. And Rice Alliance fits into that category along with groups like Austin Technology Council, TIE, and others. And then there's the accelerators and incubators. How are they different? What's the difference between the two of those? Well, typically, and there's a lot of grayness around this, accelerators you're in for a fixed period of time, usually 3 to 6 months, with the idea to get funded at the end of that. Incubators often have a longer time period. You may be doing some more difficult program that requires hardware development or some longer time period. There's also a couple of entities here in town which I would use the term virtual teams. Well, they'll drop in a C-level team around you as a founder and help you get your business going. And there's also rented co-work space. So on the education side, the Rice Alliance does 2 different programs. One of the programs is listed in the handout on the education tab. Is for folks who are considering doing a startup here in just the idea stage. And it's a 10-week or 8-week program where you meet 2 hours a week. And there's an elevator pitch competition at the end. And the cool thing is that the winner of the elevator pitch gets to present the CTAN, the Central Texas Angel Network. And so we also have a program for companies that have at least 20 employees where the CEOs want to get further training on how to run their companies. So we have a great panelist here, a really high-powered panelist team, but we didn't have room for all the folks we wanted to invite. So I wanted to recognize a few special guests who we weren't able to ask to be on the panel, but who also are here. So is Cam Hauser here? There's Cam in the back, 3-day startup. All these other companies are listed in the handout, so study that. You can get through them. Andrea from Clean Techs is here, right there. I think Kelly Hill could not make it tonight. Bob Metcalf here is at UT and runs the Longhorn Startup Program. Also in the write-up and get more details on that. Is Tina here? Okay. Pike Powers is here somewhere. There he is. Pike Powers is Scott Henson. Scott Henson from Pike Powers Commercialization Lab. If you're trying to figure out the power efficiency of your systems, you can go get testing done there. Stephen Frazier is here somewhere. Stephen. They have a very interesting program, Star Park. If you really need some heavy-duty support in terms of labs and things, you should go talk to Stephen. And then we have two representatives from Techstars. Brandon and Jacqueline, you here somewhere? Oh, okay. Techstars is a very important group here in town. They're also written up in this handout, and so pay attention to that too. So, with no further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Claire England. Claire has been around the Austin entrepreneurial community for quite a while. And the title she likes is Entrepreneur Advocate. Isn't that a nice title? I like that. And she's going to introduce the panelists. And with no further ado, except for my slide, by the way. That's interesting. I guess we'll shut this down. We'll let Claire go.
Thanks so much, Bob. So welcome, everyone. And a huge thank you to the Rice Alliance for putting this event together. I think it's really special when we're able to get together the leaders of the entrepreneur community, and in particular the leaders of our accelerators and incubators, to share some of their knowledge with our community at large. So thank you all for being here, and to the sponsors for being a part of it. We didn't arrange this on purpose, but the ladies are down here and the guys are up there.
We're gonna win.
Absolutely.
So I want to just briefly introduce Sherry Wynn is founder and managing director of Incubation Station. And unfortunately, since our slide isn't up, we don't have the Twitter handles and hashtags, but our hashtag is RiceATX14. And Sherry can be found at Sherry Wynn or Incu Station. Carrie Rupp, CEO of Dream Inventors Austin.
And Claire, the handout has all those hashtags.
Oh, well, there you go. If you want to tweet, it's in the handout. I won't worry about reading those. Carrie is CEO of Dream Inventors Austin.
I am CEO.
All of Dream.
All of Dream. My bad. All of Dreamin'.
Taking over the planet.
Taking over the planet, yes. Josh Fair is co-founder and managing director of, or executive director of Capital Factory. One of those will work. Isaac Farkas was scheduled to join us today, but he had a family illness. So Kyle Cox, who is director of IT and wireless for Austin Technology Incubator, was kind enough to join us. And then last but not least, we have Sandeep Kumar, who is relatively new to the scene. Not all of you may know him, but he is Kevin Coyne's secret weapon over at Tech Ranch and his new managing partner over there. So welcome to all our panelists. And thank you again all for being here. I want to get a sense of who is here. So if you'll tell me, if you're an entrepreneur, raise your hand. How about a mentor for one of these programs? Or interested in being a mentor for a program? Investor or interested in being an investor in the community? Awesome. So of the entrepreneurs who are here, who has been through an accelerator or incubator program? And anyone who has not been through an accelerator or incubator program but has considered applying? Awesome. Thank you. That helps us a lot to know who's here.
First time versus serial.
Oh, yes. First time entrepreneur. And serial entrepreneur, or repeat. Thank you. So we're going to aim for about 40 minutes of panel discussion and 20 minutes of Q&A. A reminder to our panelists, since I can't see you all or throw something at you easily, that we'll try to limit our answers, since we are a large panel, to just a minute or two so we can cover as much ground as possible. So as you all know, Austin has a plethora of startup resources, from co-working spaces to business accelerators to incubators to hybrid programs. Many opinions exist regarding the definitions of each. So Rise Alliance has included, of course, the basic info in your handout, along with details about most, if not all, of the Austin area programs. So I'm going to jump right into the questions. I have a ton of questions on backup if you guys don't have questions. My contract, I'm not kidding, they're testament to that. My contracts with South by and Tech Ranch are wrapping up, so I might just start my own business and enter one of these accelerators, who knows? So I have plenty of questions for them. So this is for, I think all of these questions will be for all of you, unless you just don't have an answer or don't wish to answer it. Many entrepreneurs want to know how to get into a top accelerator or incubator. Can you each touch briefly on what entrepreneurs should do to make themselves and or their startup attractive to your particular program? Is it referrals, video applications, insider tips? And why don't we start down here in the end with Sherry?
Okay. Okay, just to kind of give a little bit of context, Incubation Station is an incubator accelerator for consumer product goods. So one of the things that we look for that might be a little bit different, because we're looking for market validated products and companies. And so by the time people come to our incubator, more than likely they have a product that has been created and most likely sold, although not everything is post-revenue. So one of the things that we're going to be looking at is there any traction or momentum? And that's going to be maybe a little bit different than a product that maybe not created yet, where it's an idea. I would say one of the things that we share in common with all the incubators is that we really are looking in the process of the application for the strength of the entrepreneur and their ability to demonstrate that they have thought through what they're doing and that they're passionate about what they're doing and that they're the right person for their product or company.
Great. Okay, so Claire took two of my answers as her example in the question, but I think they're both important, so I'll touch on them for a quick second. One of them is referrals, or getting a recommendation in. So we get like hundreds and sometimes thousands of applications for 10 to 15 slots. And a recommendation, or even just like a referral that I know this guy, we've been in similar circles, I will put my name next to him, from someone that we know, whether it's an alumni company, a lawyer, or a venture capitalist in town, etc. We literally make a list to take a double look at an application that came in that we might not have paid attention to the first time around or didn't see the value in if it comes through a referral. So that's just a way you can really make sure you get the attention you deserve. And this isn't probably true of everyone, but we ask entrepreneurs to submit videos, and it's because that you can actually really express your passion for what you're doing and sometimes actually just sort of communicate something about the team dynamic, et cetera, in a way that you can't do on paper. And especially if you can imagine us reading through hundreds or thousands of applications, your eyes start to blur over after a while, and it can be helpful to be like, oh yeah, those were the guys that got really excited about X, and it's not a high production quality video, it can be on your iPhone. But it gives us a sense of your personality, your passion for what you're doing. And the last thing that wasn't in my set of examples is, for us at least at DreamIt, it's important for us to see that you're executors. And so we don't want a fully formed business plan with lots of analytical thinking. I mean, that's an attachment. We want to see that you're out there trying to build your business. This is very much about execution. So we want to know that you've talked to hundreds of companies in the space, that you've started to think about building a product. And so showing evidence of doing is going to be more important to us than showing a really polished business plan that we know, to be honest, is going to be outdated by the time it's printed. So.
Well, those are lots of good feedback, or lots of good ideas. I think I would expect the general criteria are going to be pretty similar across here. As we heard, it might be a little difference of how far along are you. You have to have just an idea or have to have a product built already. The interesting part of this discussion is most of the things are things you can't really change. So the best way to, the best thing to have for a good application is to have a really good startup, that's gonna make it most interesting. So what are the components of a really good startup? I think all of us would probably agree it starts with the team and the people, and so that is something you can affect. So if you're not having a lot of success with these types of programs, maybe you need to add someone to your team, and that's something you could go do. Traction is probably one of the most important things. That's the, kind of traction trumps all. If it's really working, then it's hard for anyone to tell you they don't think it's going to work. And so obviously the more progress you can make with moving the business forward or taking steps to move the business forward are really helpful also. And then, I heard something about recruiting recently, which I think applies here as well. They said when recruiting, go first for passion, then for experience, and then for credentials. And I think that probably applies to most of the incubator applications as well. And so kind of like Carrie said, that's where the videos are really important. Make sure your passion really comes through. We all want to invest in people and work with people that are completely passionate about what they do, and that can trump many other things. So that has to really come across and be conveyed.
From the ATI perspective, I think we look at the world slightly different just because of where we focus. We focus in innovation-led startups, IT wireless, clean energy, life sciences, things that are going to take a lot of capital to get these startups going. The word "a lot" has varied over the years, and that a lot is getting smaller these days. But the startups we're going to work with are going to need to raise money and are working on things that are innovation-led, are typically generated from IP. The age range of a typical ATI member company is also skews much older. So I'd be safe to say, we won't keep the stats internally, but safe to say that the age range is in the 30s, mid 30s, and the individuals have worked long in a particular industry and have a lot of domain expertise there. So all for passion and all for these other things, but for us and the types of companies we work with, it's ones that really fit our model in those high verticals that are enterprise and clean energy and life sciences.
So TechRanch is a little bit different. There isn't a word for it, so we call it an incubator or accelerator, but we tend to focus on the entrepreneur, and we focus on people who maybe want to be entrepreneurs. So there's a series of programs we run. They're open to people from all the accelerators, all the incubators. It's not restricted to TechRanch people. And we help them figure out, first step is we help them figure out whether the entrepreneurship is right for them. Maybe they should be in a day job, and that's the right thing. Not everybody, and day job is not a bad thing. There's different people with different, motivations. And then the second is we help, the programs will help them figure out, if they're an entrepreneur, what are the skills they need to develop, etc. So in that sense, our people coming into ours, we don't have an application process. We just are looking for passionate people who want to figure out what to do next. And then we help them get there.
Great, thank you all. And just a reminder, we're not all used to speaking into mics frequently, so speak into the mic so the folks in the back of the room can hear us. And eat the mic. For the folks in the back of the room and anyone else who comes in, if you can let them know there are some seats up here, and if anyone can raise a hand if they have an empty chair next to them for the folks in the back of the room, we'd appreciate it. And y'all feel free to come on up. We're friendly, we won't bite. Or, well, unless you're the microphone. So I think we'll start on the other end, and Sandeep, you may have answered this already in that last one, but what is not a fit with your program?
I'll reverse the question. What's a fit for a program are people who are passionate.
Well, and I think, Sandeep, there may also be relevance with Venture Builder, because that one is an application process.
Yeah, so we have 3 different or multiple programs, and maybe the context is, first step is, for an entrepreneur, we help them figure out what they should be doing to succeed. When they have a company, and that, again, this is also, it doesn't have to be based at TechRanch, we help them figure out how to build a business and help them get partnerships. And then the third step is help them go global. So those are the 3 things we help them get through in stages. And they, obviously, if they're housed at TechRanch, the support is better, but it's not much different if you're not. In fact, we have companies in our program that are in Chile, that are in San Francisco, that are in Carnegie Mellon at Pittsburgh, so it's not even necessarily restricted to Austin. It's people, we help them, get to their goals.
All right, thank you.
So the what is not a fit, again, I think it's easy for us in the fact that if you're not IT wireless and you're not clean energy, you're not life sciences, then you're not a fit for us. And what we try to attempt to do is push companies all over. We get over 1,000 applications a year, and we turn down almost all of them. And it's the fact that all of these other organizations really serve. CPG, we get probably 3 to 5 CPG applications a month. We send them over to incubation stations, suggest that they connect with a mentor there. So the easy way to answer the question is the verticals that we're lined up with. If you don't fall in those, you're not a fit.
But Kyle, what about the ones who do fit in those verticals? Why are they not fit?
Again, that's a tougher question to answer in a minute, but it goes back to all the other, the team, the passion, the solution you're going after. Application process for us, relative to I think everyone else here, takes months. We date you a very, very, very long time before we get married to you. And we often joke that we add more value to the companies during the application process than after you've joined. That's a punt to the fact that it takes so long for us to decide we want to work together. So there's not any one reason, there's not one deal killer in why companies don't fit. It again just goes along the model that you're an innovation-led company, that you're going to need to figure a lot of things out before you're able to go out and compete in the capital market. And we really weigh on, are we going to be able to work with you and get you funded by an outside source? I think that's going to steal another question, so I'll stop there.
Josh.
Great. Well, so Capital Factory, we're focused on software and internet. And so pretty much all the companies that work here are software and internet companies, and all the ones that we fund. The interesting thing about that is pretty much every company is becoming a software and internet company. So it just kind of depends what industry you're in and how far along that's going. But I think our trend over time is that more and more businesses are included in that. And taking a step back from that, what we're really focused on is we want companies that we can help and that we can make a difference with. Our business model is really around primarily experienced entrepreneurs themselves volunteering their time to go spend with other entrepreneurs. And most of them really aren't getting paid to do that. In fact, they probably pay to do that. They either by investing or by donating time and money. And so they're doing that because they want to make a difference. It's not just about putting money in. They want to really help. And so we look for companies we can help, and that we're going to look at one and say, hey, we've got experience with that, like that business that you're working on. We've got other mentors that have done things like that, or we've worked with other businesses like that one. There are ways that we think we can really help. And so a company that wouldn't fit into that would be one that either had nothing to do with software or internet, or we just really didn't feel like we could help and make a difference for it.
A lot of the things that Josh said are true for us, although we still work on the really discrete model of running what's called a cycle of an accelerator. So we're a 3-month program or a 4-month program for certain industries. And so by the nature of that, there are certain companies that can't get from one market milestone to the next in 3 months. So if you're a drug molecule or you're a heavy manufacturing kind of company, we want to be able to see not just that your startup's 3 months further along, but that in those 3 months you got from an idea to an alpha product, or from a beta to live revenue. And so there are certain companies that just lend themselves to that and others that don't. Another thing for us, we don't specifically focus on software and internet, though if you looked at our portfolio, similarly to what Josh says, pretty much everyone almost does at this point. But we do care about having the doer on the team. So in most cases, that means you need to have a software engineer, a lead software engineer or CTO. It may instead be the lead person doing digital printing and creating the device or whatever it's going to be. But if you just have a really great idea and you're saying, oh, we just need a tech co-founder, you're not a fit, because we need you to be able to be executing on your business on day one. It's about doing, not planning to do. So that's an important thing when you're thinking about applying, I think, to a really discrete time frame accelerator.
Well, I would really agree with everything everybody said, and I'll just add to it and say that, one of the things about Incubation Station is if you're just looking to raise money, it's probably not a good enough reason to join an incubator accelerator. Really what we're stressing, and one of the things that really is required in the into the process of Incubation Station, which is a 12 to 14 week program, it's really an executive MBA on your business. It's pretty much we take you through, because you've got a product that is either being made or being sold, and we're going to review that product. We're going to go through aspects of that product. We're going to go through every aspect of the way you're doing business, and it's pretty intense. I mean, I think that's one of the things that I would say for all the incubator, the short-term programs is that you need to be in a place where you're ready to focus. And that doesn't mean that we are not focused also on your being able to raise the funds you need, because that is part of our model. We are an equity-based model in the sense that our mentors, and we have almost 50 of them this track, who are all experienced entrepreneurs, investors, or industry experts, they are going to get a small piece of your company. They're paying a lot of money to come and play with us for community reasons, and also because we really want to build, at least what I'm doing, is we want to show that investing in consumer product goods is the way to go and is a very distinct and important part of the economy and diversified business. So, we take what we do pretty seriously, and I would say if you don't have the time and energy to truly devote to having your business go through accelerated growth, don't apply to Incubation Station.
So let's turn the tables a bit. Why should entrepreneurs be interested in your program? And are all startups better off with the help of an accelerator or incubator? If so, why? If not, why?
Well, I started to touch on that. I don't think that someone who has, not everyone is the right fit for an incubator. I will tell you one thing, that you really do need to interview your incubator and trying to be smart about, whether or not that is something that makes sense for you. We have had people apply, and we go through a very rigorous process, and it takes us a lot of time. And at the end, if the person really hasn't vetted it out and done their research, you may not be a fit if all you want is cash and you just haven't been able to raise it. I mean, that's a waste of everybody's time, and it's not particularly smart for you. We're in the, there used to not be incubator accelerators, and there is a serious glut of people who call themselves incubators and accelerators in the industry, and none of that coming from the people we've talked about here. I mean, these are all very substantive organizations, but there are a lot of people who just have a service business and they say they have an incubator accelerator, but they're not actually working with you. So, there really is some kind of due diligence that you want to be doing to examine whether or not this is something that is right for you, and we can talk about how to do that, because that could maybe be a follow-up question, but that's pretty important to know, am I just applying to this because I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, or, I just need to raise a quick buck.
Yeah, I think Sherry's answer is really on. I think, the reality is that most of these programs have multiple benefits that they bring to the table, and not every startup that comes in actually values every benefit. So we do, pretty serious midpoint surveys, exit interviews, all kinds of things to measure what's impactful. But for each startup, it tends to be a different element of the program that's valuable. So you can't say, oh, well, as long as they're great at making introductions to investors, it's a great accelerator. Or as long as the partner meetings where they go through our business model and help us with our business are valuable, and it's valuable. You need to identify as a startup where your weaknesses are and whether the programs that accelerator or incubator have a good reputation and a good track record at solving that problem. I wish it were as simple as to say these are the couple components you need to look at, but most of us are providing 15, 20 different benefits, from free credits at Amazon web services to introductions to investors, and you have to figure out which of those components you care about and whether that program is good at that, because probably we're not all top A1 at each one of those things, and hence the process of doing the due diligence to find the right one that's a fit. But we, plenty of companies have succeeded in the world without accelerators. We think we add value, but you need to make sure that you want the value that we're bringing to the table.
Thanks, Gary.
So, I think there's a bunch of reasons not to, I certainly agree. I think, like they said, there'll be a lot that are common across all of them. For Capital Factory, it's going to come down to a few key things from the startups we talked to. Like Carrie said, not every startup takes advantage of all of them. In fact, I find most of them tend to focus on one or the other. I think the most important thing for any startup is talent. If you have the right talent, everything else is easy. And we have all the talent in Austin here. They come here every night for different types of things. There are 4 events going on here tonight. There's going to be hundreds of people here. We had about 600 events last year, and about 25,000 programmers and entrepreneurs come through. So pretty much every programmer and entrepreneur comes through here, and we meet them. And when they want to join a startup or they have an idea, they come talk to us, and we know about them. We know who the hot people are that are looking for opportunities to join or things to go do. And so having the right talent on your team is really, really important, and we can make a big difference in that. We can help find co-founders. We can help you get your first engineers, help your first salespeople, things like that. Second thing would be community, really being part of the community and plugging into the Austin community. And there's just no better place to do it. Partly because of those things I just said, because there's so much happening here, because there's so much activity, because it's the largest place and the most people here, you have the most density. It means that when you sit in our kitchen, like just magic happens. It's true serendipity. You meet people, you bump into people, you overhear something, and really good things come out of that. The third thing would be publicity and attention. That having all those events here and having all these people work here means that everybody you want to meet, everybody really interesting, they come here on their own. We used to have to go find them and search them out, now they come on their own. And so every day I get an email from somebody that's really cool or really important, whether it's an investor or some entrepreneur or some press person, and they say, hey, I'm coming to Austin next week or in 2 weeks, and I want to meet startups that are into healthcare or consumer packaged goods or education or transportation or something, and I get to play matchmaker. And the startups that are in our program that we're working with, I mean, we actually often introduce them to lots of companies, even in other programs with other people in Austin, but we are the ones that we know the best and that we're working with first. And so being on our list means you get a lot of introductions to really important, impactful people. And the last thing is funding. I think that's actually, as much as I agree that, as everybody said, that you shouldn't just come for funding, that probably is the most common reason why people come and what they think they want, maybe before they find out about the other things that they could get. And we really help companies get funded. I know that's ATI's slogan, and they deserve it. But maybe at a different level, they, as he said, they focus on very capital-intensive companies. We help companies get their first money, and we're really good at it. So right now, we have, again, a great list of inventors that you'll see on our website, and they're active angel investors. And companies come in and join our program, they get to connect with those mentors, and they try to get them to be their first investors. And so far, looking at the past year, 60% of the companies that join the program within 6 months get 2 of the mentors to invest in their company. That's usually about $25,000 each. And then our funding accelerator multiplies that. So if you get 2 of the mentors to invest, which again is happening all the time, our fund matches that with another $50,000. And then Silverton and Floodgate, which are 2 other VC firms, match it with another $50,000. And then we just started building an AngelList syndicate, which just did our first match, which brought another $400,000 to one of our companies. And so the idea is you come in, you meet with a couple mentors, and if you can get 2 of them to invest in your company, things start to happen really fast, and that's really working.
So from our perspective, I'm going to answer the second question first, and it's, do all startups need an incubator accelerator? And that's obviously no. There's a million that haven't. To drill on the point about funding, if you think all you need is funding, then you've got a lot more that you truly need. And it's an observation we all have. We meet entrepreneurs every day that say, all I need is the money and I'm off to the races. And that points to most of us that you've got some other issues on board, and it's going to take you a little while to kind of get to the level of awareness that it's going to go to get you funding. So just to drill on those 2 points. The other point about this, and looking around the room speaks to it. Josh just highlighted the power of Capital Factory and the fact that all of y'all are in this room. I contend that Austin is an incubator now. And it's not any one space. It's all of these spaces and all these people in this room. So you don't need to go join any one company to make or break your startup. So that's sort of my long-winded answer to the second part of that question. To put my sales guy ATI hat on, what we have history. 25 years old. Longest running clean energy incubator in the world, arguably the longest running business incubator, successful business incubator in the country. Those stats get debated a little bit back and forth. Last 7 years, companies have raised just north of $350 million. We have in the last cohort, we don't do classes like the accelerators do, but because we're affiliated with UT Austin, we like graduation. That's a symbolic gesture of getting on to the next stage in life, right? So our last graduating class, 96% of them competed in the capital markets and raised money. So we have a very, very high success rate in getting companies that we work with funded. We have a list of mentors that come in and work with our companies. That list is at 340 members in Austin right now. So many of you all in the room I'm looking at are on that list and come up frequently. Access to those people that these startups otherwise couldn't get in front of is one of the selling points. And again, I don't think that's as much ATI as it is Austin. So for all of y'all that raise your hand saying first-time entrepreneur, congratulations, you're definitely in the right place.
So for TechCrunch, I would say who are the people who who are relevant. There's 3 groups, right? So the first group is people who think they want to be entrepreneurs are not sure. So we have a program where we throw them into a fire drill, throw the baby into the swimming pool, see if they enjoy it. Maybe they do, and maybe they don't, right? So it's a 1-day program, very intense, and at the end of it, they say, yes, this is for me, or no, it's not. Open to everybody, right? So second program is, okay, now I have an idea, I have a company, and I was a marketing guy and now I need to build a product, or I was a product guy and I need to build marketing. So normally the companies start with one person, and that one person most of the time has only 1 or 2 skills and needs a complementary understanding, but he's very passionate and he thinks, or he or she thinks they know everything, but they suddenly realize they don't know everything and they need to figure it out. So we help them through a 8-week program on learning things and then finding team members. And the third is the company is in motion, has some traction, has some funding, and they want to grow. So, you know, there is a word, there is no facts inside your home, which is by Steve Blank, right? So, and the rationale there is we take those companies, help them find businesses, take them outside the incubator, put them in front of customers, and build a business with them. We have a bench of coaches, and we call them coaches instead of mentors, because our coaches spend 8 to 10 hours a week, and they're part of the team. So it's a little bit different. It's not giving advice to the company, they become part of the team and go out and promote the business. And as a part of it, they've done this 35 years before, you know, multiple companies, so they will help build a company, and along the way we take them global. So, and yes, we have a space and there's companies that come there, and for that, you know, we're always full, so we do some screening, but our programs are open to everyone. They're not restricted to the people that are on our campus.
Thanks, Cindy. So I'm gonna shake things up a bit. For entrepreneurs who are interested in accelerators or incubators, can you give them advice on doing their homework about you? Think of it as a job applicant doing the research on potential employers. So what I'm going to ask is, Josh, I would like you to tell our audience what research you would do about Dream It.
You know, for the, and I'll say for
Put
Dream
you on the
It.
spot at all.
I mean, honestly, it's not that it's any different for Dream It than it would be for anything else, really. Unfortunately, I wish I could make it more dramatic, but you know, it's really, for me, picking an accelerator is going to be about 2 things. It's who are the people running it that I'm going to get to interact with, and what are the experiences of the people that went through it. And so in the case of Dream It, I'd want to go get to know Carrie and Steve and some of the other awesome people that are the mentors that run it. And that would give me a really good feeling of what it's like to work for them, or work with them. I'd be really impressed that they're all entrepreneurs themselves, that Carrie's, you know, been involved in executive at different businesses and helped build them, and Steve's built businesses and gave Bookspan, and they have all these other great people that, you know, help build it that I'd want to learn from and I'd want to be with. And then I'd go talk to their entrepreneurs. I'd go talk to the people that went through it, and I'd want to hear from them what they got out of it. And of course, you know, there's a little bit of a selection bias. So if you picked the incubator, then you kind of, like a lot of things that you self-select, then you want to say how great it was because you were in it. So you have to like put that little bias off of it a little bit. But then I'd really push them for, okay, so what did you get out of it? What were the material differences? What did you do differently because you went through there than because you didn't? Who were the mentors that were the most helpful, and what difference did they make for you?
I'm going to cut you off
and those
so
types of
others have
things.
some ideas too. Carrie, you're an entrepreneur applying to Tech Branch's Venture Builder program. What research are you going to do?
I wish I had different ideas, but so much of this is about the people running the programs, because a lot of people think that running an accelerator is putting together a speaker series and putting together a physical workspace and doing these things, and then all of a sudden you have an accelerator. Sherry alluded to it. There are many of them now. Unfortunately, that's not what it's about. Most of life is, most of you know, is about people and relationships. And so it's about the connections they can make on your behalf, the people they're going to bring in that are going to do the talking, the speaking events that are going to actually, potentially invest in your company. And so 100% of the research is about people, I think. I think the only other component I would add is just metrics. If it's important to you to find out how many companies got funded, out of that program, you have to assume yours is a different circumstance, but it's helpful to know the metrics on that. If it's important to you to know, that they're going to have a lot of resources available, you want to know how many people are on the mentor list, that kind of thing. But I think most of this is qualitative, and it's about the people running the program and the connections they're bringing to the table.
And I think Sherry wants to be the entrepreneur. Who are you interviewing? ATI or Capital Factory?
Oh, I was just going to add something. I'm sorry. I don't mean to go off topic, but I was just going to say, on top of that, one thing to really ask is about engagement of the network that they have. That's a big thing, because just because you have a roster of mentors doesn't mean that people are engaged. And what that engagement looks like and what that means as far as the impact upon you, I think is really important. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm just going to add one thing. When we find out that an entrepreneur who's applying to the program went proactively and talked to a bunch of our alumni, that's actually a sign for us that they're more likely to get in because they were doing their due diligence, and that means they're a smart entrepreneur. So we will make introductions on companies' behalf. If they say, well, we'd like to talk to some of your alumni, we'll make that an introduction. But I'm way more psyched when they go on our website and find companies and call them up. And every one of our companies will take that phone call, which is really a sign of a strong entrepreneur.
I think you guys just about covered it, but do you have anything to add down there?
Doing your homework is a good thing.
Thank you all. So one last question before we go to some Q&A. We've all heard the suggestion in the media and elsewhere that perhaps Austin has reached, and you've alluded to it as well, has reached a saturation point for accelerators and incubators. Do you think that's true? Do you turn away many applicants? Do you have to do a lot of recruitment? Who would like to start?
I got it. So we're actually about to launch an incubator for incubators. So if anybody wants to launch an incubator program in Austin, we're happy to host you here and help you launch. Actually, I'm only half joking. We actually did help Techstars and DreamIt lease out a home as they got started, and I think hopefully helped introduce them to the rest of the community. And I think there are going to be more. And I'm really only half joking about that. I think I wouldn't be surprised if you see us continuing to do those types of things. I would expect if you're going to do something like that, you should have a strong vertical focus. So for example, what Sherry did with launching the incubation station, I thought was really smart. She had a really clear focus. It's highly differentiated. It's really obvious why you'd apply for that over different things, and why you'd even come to Austin from somewhere else just to do that, right? So that makes a lot of sense. I think if you tried to launch another Capital Factory, that wouldn't make a lot of sense right now. I think if you had a really clear focus that you bring in, that would help. I think as a contrast, for example, what's cool about what Carrie and DreamIt do is they have a national network that they bring in as well. So that's kind of a different component to it. But if I were launching it, it would have a really strong vertical focus.
Thanks, Josh.
Oh no, I agree. I think Josh took my notes from that one. That's my answer too. No, but in all seriousness, you can look up here. I often use the analogy when people ask me about accelerators and incubators. What are they? Explain the differences, etc. And I use the analogies of service providers. And there's not one law firm in town. There's not one commercial real estate agent in town. We to some extent are service providers in this. And we all have our areas of focus. Some firms are better at IP than others. Some firms are better at corporate law than others, etc., etc. Take real estate. Every building is different. Every building and the square footage and the layout is different. Hiring a commercial real estate agent like Aquila or whatever they call them, they have agents that know your needs, know your demands, and can put you in the right space. So that's just another kind of layer on top of what Josh said. But incubating incubators, we've been doing it. We actually incubated Tech Ranch years ago. We've incubated 2 clean energy incubators across Texas, and are talking to some other municipalities and some other states about doing the same. So I agree with Josh in the fact that, counter to what Mr. Metcalf has said in the past, that they were overrun with whateverators. I think we're actually going to see some more.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily that Austin is overrun. I think a lot of it, I don't sense that. I think the bottom line is that it's absolutely going to be focused. And I think one of the things, and one of my motivations was really that we really need to support diversified industry, as we have this massive tech industry, which is wonderful, but it goes through its booms and busts. And the reason why I did it is I was representing and connecting all these entrepreneurs and investors through my law firm, and I realized that the only reason I was still in business was because I was representing a range of businesses and industries, and that it's really important as a city that we support diversified industries. And being able to, there's now a gaming incubator, there's gonna be, I mean, it's an interesting, for me, it was a way of kind of launching into a different kind of economic development, and also gathering of expertise and mentorship around a group of people that are so disparate and then don't have that, don't have a way to find each other. And so we do have a lot of consumer products industry here. It's just finding each other, and then also how do we build it to be stronger. So I think that there is room for that.
Well, we have a great ecosystem as evidenced by all of these folks. And I want to open it up now to questions. And if you don't have very many, I'll back you up.
Bob. Big Bob.
Oh, troublemaker has a question.
So
Hey, Daniel.
I think I've heard that the number of companies that you accept into your incubators varies between 1 in 10 to 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000, I think you also heard. Is that because there's too few incubators? Is that because there's not enough venture capital? Or is that because 99% of people who think they want to start a company really shouldn't?
Yes.
All of the above.
Most of the applications are crap.
Well, and I think in our case, we started with an accelerator piece. You know, the dream is to be a hybrid incubator accelerator, but we started with the accelerator piece to start building the community, and the idea is to create an incubator type function that actually serves people year round and serves people who are just not going to come through a track program. And you have to limit the number of people in your track in a sense, because it's very intense, and you want to make sure, and whether that's 5 or 10, you want to make sure that you're going to have the impact that you need to have in that particular set period of time. And there's kind of a question of how do you best do that.
And to add one layer to that, I think it's a process. We're all sitting here, and these aren't exclusives. This isn't an XOR type of equation. I mean, there are member companies of ATI or in Capital Factory that came out of Dream It. The only one that we just don't interface with until someone wants to build a potato chip manufacturing machine or something is incubation station. But so I don't view these as exclusive. You don't get in one and you just got to try the other and go. What the Rice Alliance folks put together on the handout, I saw a slide of it earlier. There's a transition here, and the term ecosystem gets played because thinking about the fact that there are small organisms that grow into larger organisms, and then they feed off each other and get into bigger organisms as well. So it takes a village, it takes a city like Austin to grow all these things. I would say that I didn't see the full printout, but what Texas State's doing with their Spectrum program, that's a great start. If you don't get into to Dream It or to Capital Factory for a reason, you may need to go and rethink your plan, find some more people. Going and hanging out at a place like that and learning more about it are a good thing. So it's not a one and done, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to learn across all of this, across the spectrum.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Bob, for the question.
Can I actually just throw one in there just to antagonize the situation? I mean, part of this you have to think about is the business model of each of us. Because this isn't actually all about altruism, or at least for most of us it isn't, right? So if we were going for high diversification, we might actually take lots and lots of companies in and be playing a numbers game. I think for most of us, we're pretty passionate, as to Claire's title, about sort of being advocates for entrepreneurs, and I think we believe that the impact of the time we spend with the companies is going to make them exponentially more successful than if all we did was put money in. And that's what you're evaluating, I think. So we don't have enough time capacity to put the amount of time and energy we put into startups into more than the volume we take. That's not saying there aren't companies that are worthwhile. It's just that if we're going to put that much time and energy in, there's a capacity restraint. That being said, we get a lot of cupcake businesses and pink lawnmowers and things too, and not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur.
So one quick.
Unless it's a gluten-free, very healthy cupcake. Let's change it.
And just can we restate Bob's question just to make sure we're staying on track here?
So Bob's question was, where's the bottleneck? Are there, or is there a capacity problem at the top end or at the bottom end? That's how I translate. So my comment here is, yeah, there is a admission process, and there is some requirement that says you can get into Capital Factory or etc. But really, where the bottleneck is, what you do in the university is teach students in your 3-day startup, long on startup, how to start companies. But there's people out in the industry or out, they're not in the university, who want to become entrepreneurs but don't know how to go about it. And they don't get to the point where they can meet the criteria that Capital Factory or DreamIt or ATI has to join them. So the bottleneck today is there's a lot of people who want to build businesses, but there isn't a formal setup to help them get there, to even get to the level that they can get into these institutions.
Pre-incubator.
So I don't know what we want to call it. Is there a phrase? Is
Barrier to entry.
so that's where I.
Can you survive long enough to show that you're going to?
Is it true that most successful companies don't actually do incubator accelerators? They just start and are very successful. Let me think of some.
I don't think,
Apple.
I know that sounds good, but the problem with that is that incubators and accelerators have only been around in total for about 8 years. And so the amount of time that it takes to create one of those companies that you talked about is longer than that period of time. And so what we do see out of those now are Dropbox and Airbnb, and there are a number of companies that are very successful, many billion-dollar companies that have come out of it, and I think we're going to see a lot more. So while I do think the stats may support that circumstantially, I don't think it's really a good comparison.
And
I think the analogy I
Guys,
draw.
I'm actually going to stop this part of the conversation because we have lots more questions, and I'll let you guys go for a second happy hour to keep debating this. But we actually had one right here.
Randall, do you still have a question? I did. I think
one quick point. When you do have a question, if you'll flag down Daniel in the yellow plaid shirt, he'll come with the mic.
Thank you. My name is Randall Terrell. I'm with Alternative Energy Development, and I'm going to put y'all all kind of on the spot. You kind of nibbled around the edges of my questions, but I want you to focus on it for a second. I'm going to ask you what the negative space is that we're not talking about right now. Let's get back to the weird in the title of the presentation today, which is, what is it about Austin that makes it a great place to start a business? What is it about Austin that has limitations for starting a business? And a couple of years ago, I know it was mezzanine capital had some problems with that. But the question for y'all is, other than incubators and possibly the music scene, what is about Austin that provides a depth of resources for startups? Possibly, we're a low-tech company, so what about low-tech companies as well? And what is it about Austin that we could use or improve upon if we could get it here?
Well, I'll start. I really believe, given everything that I've learned and everything I'm doing in this community, is there are a lot of people here that are very committed to working collaboratively, in a collaborative way. I mean, people come from San Francisco, they come from New York, they come from all over. The whole idea of, is this really, are we really the incubator? Is the fact that we're willing to exchange information, is the fact that we're willing to work together there? I mean, it does appear that Austin has an environment that is a lot of people who are successful turn around and want to give it back. It might be in different ways. It might be because eventually we're going to invest in these companies. But I do think there is a spirit here of collaboration. We have an energy and a momentum towards wanting to become the kind of place that's going to support this. And I think that does exist here. And you guys can talk to what's missing.
What we don't have, and I'm trying to answer your question, I think, it's history yet. Not 8 years. I mean, we've been around for 25, but that's still not a lot of time in the grand scheme of things. It takes memory, it takes muscle memory and scar tissue to make a lot of this stuff work. To Bob's point and to your question, we don't have enough successful entrepreneurs that are going back for the third, fourth, fifth bite at the apple. We're getting that. I mean, the number of exits we've seen in this town in the last 3 years and what we're going to see in the next 2 years, there's going to be a lot more. That represents capital, that represents experience, board members, advisory panels, and it's a scale issue that we're just not quite there yet, but we're getting there. So we're in the third inning, let's call it, of a 9-inning game here, or something.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to sound buzzwordy, so I almost regret saying it, but a lot of this is about ecosystem, and so you need to have you can't just have capital, you can't just have mentors, you actually have to have all those things. So when DreamIt actually came from Philly, we were looking for a place where it had a number of things. It needed to have a great school pumping out engineers and entrepreneurially minded students, and UT is doing that really well. There's actually other schools in the region doing it. You need mentors who have been there and done that. So not just people who want to help startups, but people who have actually done the hard part of having a failed startup or growing a startup to scale, who want to give back, who are at that place in their. You need law firms that actually know how to do startup work and are actually willing to do free or discounted work at the beginning. So there's a whole number of players in the ecosystem that together need to exist. You need early stage capital that's willing to do really risky stuff. With CTAN being one of the most active, early angel groups in the country, that's helpful. There's a bunch of VC here, but everyone can complain when they get stuck at a certain point that there's not enough of anything, and it's this virtuous circle of having all of those things feeding into each other. We have a lot of that. It doesn't always work seamlessly. Sometimes it needs to be oiled. Sometimes there's gaps in certain parts, but I think it also has momentum to it and continues to grow.
Great, thank you.
So, one quick comment. What we have in Austin is a culture of taking risk. And you don't see, people when they take risk and fail, you don't get looked down upon. And that's what makes Silicon Valley succeed. That's what makes this area succeed. What we don't have in Austin is diversification, right? So the key, back to all companies are software companies, but in Silicon Valley, there's a breadth. Now, they're trying to do it. There's some clean energy, there's some biotech, but that's not enough of those. It's still used to be 10, 20 years ago, it was all semiconductor, and then it became all software. And until you have a broader diversification, you won't get this intermingling between technologies that is happening in the other, successful regions that creates this, spiral effect. Go ahead.
Josh added we need a medical school coming and better parking not coming.
Dan Mailman, retired entrepreneur. In the interest of pre-application research, why don't each of you give a 2-minute elevator pitch and give your business model?
I'm going to drop it to 30 seconds.
Wasn't that kind of like why should people join your thing?
Yeah.
No, the elevator pitch. 30-second elevator pitch. There you go.
Okay, terrific. Incubation Station, if you know, okay, that's fine. If you know Clayton Christopher, you know Scott Jensen, maybe Sweet Leaf Tea, maybe you know Thunderbird Bars. Came into the program our first year, which was less than 20 months ago, with $30,000 sold, and they just raised $2 million and $18 million valuation. If you want to rapidly scale a consumer product good, then you will apply to us.
Excuse me, so I'm going to focus on differentiation, but Dream It brings in companies from around the world, so we're not just focused on Austin entrepreneurs. We have several vertical tracks, so we have Dream It Health, which is focused on health IT programs, which we do in conjunction with Penn Medicine and Johns Hopkins in Philly and Baltimore. We're really focused on businesses that want to get to the next level in 3 months, and we run a program here in Austin, but only once a year, so we also run in Philly, New York, Baltimore, Tel Aviv.
Work in the best office in Austin, plug into all the most amazing people and community that you could meet, and get your company funded.
Actually, can you
25-year business incubation history, connection to both UT Austin and the fiber of Austin overall. Let's see, the metrics, we'll sell those. Last 7 years, $432 million in capital raised. Same time frame, different cohort of companies, $532 million in exits, including 2 IPOs. So
pretty new, 4 years old, but we help entrepreneurs develop their skills, and we help their businesses be successful as businesses.
What about the business models? The business models.
We have a lot of folks wanting to ask questions. Do you mind?
There's been some talk about WeWork and Galvanize, 2 potential incubators coming into Austin. WeWork has been saying they're going to come here. Now they're not going to come here. Now they're going to come here. But it looks like they are really close to signing a lease and coming to Austin, as well as Galvanize. And how would that change, do you think, the ecosystem of the of the incubators, and will adding those will those two groups be successful? Or will they end up just fostering a bunch of people who should not be entrepreneurs because it would be too crowded, and for people who really should actually just go work for a company?
And I think one way to look at that is to look at what DreamIt and Techstars have done coming into the ecosystem and how that went.
World. Yeah. So I don't know if everyone's familiar with these other spaces, but WeWork is it's really a real estate model. I suppose you're getting to your business model questions. None of us are real estate models, I think, but it's really a real estate model. So it's all about building commercial real estate and making money off people paying rent. And they do develop some community around that as well, but the core model, and that's what their business is, and they've raised a lot of money to go do that, and that's their plan. And then Galvanize, I'm somewhat familiar with, but I think is actually more similar to Capital Factory in Denver. So they're kind of different things. I think, on the real estate play side, look, there's a lot of demand for office space. I don't know, people will probably work there. Is somebody coming in that has no connections to Austin and opening up a place like that? Are they going to have the mentor networks, the other things that are up here? Not for a long time. So it's going to be a different vibe and a different thing. But there's a lot of demand for office space. There'll be a lot of people there. Galvanize, I don't know. I'd be curious what their real motivation is on it. If for them it's real estate or something else. I think both of those are going to be challenging, especially considering. I think they should be really worried about WeWork.
So we are at 7:30, and even though we got a bit of a late start, I want to poll our audience here. The event goes until 8 or 8:20 or something, but I want to ask if you would like to continue the Q&A and discussion for another 15 minutes, or go straight into the networking. So those in favor of continuing, raise your hands, please. And those in favor of networking. Okay. Continuing when? Someone bring Kyle a drink. Sorry, Robert. Okay, we've got a question right here. And remember, if you could keep your answers as brief as possible, maybe just one person answer.
So my question is about the funding, and obviously there's a whole bunch of the QE and there's grants and all this kind of stuff. So would you be looking more favorably at an entrepreneur that had already gone through grant processes, or would you be more favorable to someone who is just coming in with their idea and their plan and their executive summary?
I'll take that because I'm holding a mic, and I want to answer this gentleman's question as well about business models. We're Switzerland when it comes to this in a lot of regards. We're a nonprofit unit of the university because the university is a nonprofit. So I think we're the only ones up here that have that moniker. So our business model is slightly different, and our economics are different. But to follow in on that, non-dilutive grant financing, yes. If you're not getting funding from there, get it from your customers. That's the best source of funding, by all means. And then if you can't get that, then maybe you need to go out and get investor capital. But grant financing helps if it's not distractive to what you're attempting to do. Going out and getting a grant on one thing, but trying to strip that off and then go start a business doing something corollary might not make a lot of sense. It really depends. But if you can get financing from some other source, you're de-risking this opportunity. I would argue that probably be very attractive to everyone up here.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it wouldn't overcome the more important fundamentals of what the business is about, and I just would always caution people to think that getting funding is a sign that you have a viable business. It means you were a good salesperson to an investor, and we try to not to give it too much credibility. What's much more relevant is that you're actually building real metrics in your business.
And I do want to go back to the business model because I think that's important that everyone understands how each of these programs work. So Kyle's already answered. I think Josh, you might have addressed a little bit. Can you guys each touch on that briefly?
I'll do the same thing. I'll answer the question, which is, not all funding is alike. There's smart funding, there's the right funding, there's absolutely the wrong funding with the wrong investor. And I would say a lot of, I've had people that apply to Incubation Station and we can't take them because they just got somebody to fund them and they've given them, 40% of their business for doing nothing, and we love them and we say we can't. And then they'll convince them Incubation Stations, 2 to 10% is, we're just highway robbery when, I would just tell you that, not all funding is alike. That's what I would say with that. As far as our business model, we have, well, I guess it's going to be 45, 50 mentors that actually pay to play. You apply. If we pick you, depending upon the stage of your business, because the incubation station is taking companies that have zero income, zero revenue to, revenue up to 2 to 3 million, we basically negotiate a percentage of the business that we're going to have between 2 and 10%. It's mostly around 6. I mean, that's pretty much the average. And that's that percentage of the company is how we're paid. The idea when people come into our program is that you're going to grow and you're going to develop your business in something 3 to 5, 3 to 6 years. There will be some kind of transaction event that our people who have put their money in will get their money back. Karen?
Really similar to that, we just have a fund instead of individual mentors contributing. We take 6%. We also have a fund to try to do follow-on investing in the companies that are succeeding. But it's all about the long-term success of the businesses. So we're pretty aligned. We take our first equity as common stock, so we can literally negotiate on the investor's behalf, or I'm sorry, the entrepreneur's behalf, because we don't have any specific preferences. So we are 100% aligned with the entrepreneur's long-term goals.
We're also common.
So we really have two businesses. One is the space here, which is technically its own business, but really is more like a nonprofit because it doesn't actually make any money. We just provide the space and pay the rent every month. And then the second part of the business is our fund, and we invest in the startups that join. When companies join our incubator, they give up 2 points of equity, which is meant to be the smallest amount that they would have as an option, meant to be really a no-brainer. And then as they get members to invest, we invest alongside that. So most of our equity comes from investing in the companies directly, and then the way we make money is, again, to the other people's point, 5 to 10 years later when they have some kind of liquidity event, and that money flows back to our LPs.
And to clarify one point on this, ATI's model, we actually charge our members a fee. So we're not investing in you. We're a public state institution. We're owned by all of y'all as citizens of the state of Texas, right? And so we actually charge our members a fee. It's a nominal fee. It's $5,000 a year. And then we also get grant funding from other sources to help our metric in capital raised. It's really about economic impact to Central Texas. And so the people that fund us want to see economic growth for this region. And so we get funded from folks like the Economic Development Agency, Department of Commerce, Austin Energy, City of Austin, places like that that care about economic growth and being affiliated with the university through that. And then we have our lovely, lovely friends and corporate partners, folks like Aquila and the quite sexy Jay Lamy. Those are they often also are key partners for us because they help do things like provide lunch and learns or dinners or drinks and things like that being a part of the university is really hard for us to do. So they partner with us through that way as well. It's a small portion of our model.
And Sandeep, TechCrunch's model, briefly as possible.
So we're basically a nonprofit, so we give our the spaces at cost with the overheads, and the programs are also at cost. I mean, they just cover our overhead. Some of the additional budget comes from sponsors, but that's to pay the staff. So our programs don't, our full day program is $100, 8 weeks program is $800. So that's how we cover.
Great, thank you all. We have a question.
Yeah, I think what you guys are doing is absolutely fantastic. I came to Austin in 1992, 1993 timeframe, and when I came to Austin, there was one incubator, and the leader of that incubator happens to be with us this evening, and it's my friend Laura Kilcrease. Laura is like the Obi-Wan Kenobi of incubator leaders. She is. And I have to look at Laura and have to think that she's got to be so proud of the things that she spawned by virtue of what's going on here this evening. Then I want to turn the question to you guys. If you put yourself out 10 or 15 years ahead, what do you think you might be able to look back and say, what did I accomplish and how did I continue the legacy of what you're continuing now?
Who would like to start?
So 10 or 15 years from now, a global network of entrepreneurial stations like this. Because to me, in 15 years from now, Austin is just a part of a bigger world. And entrepreneurs, they not only need to move out of their offices to go after businesses, they need to go global from almost day one. So how do you provide a network of landing pads across the world where entrepreneurs can start their business and the next day they're thinking about how they enter China? And what is the competition in China? And what I'm developing here is not being done somewhere else. So that's what I see as 50.
Thanks, Cindy.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're a platform for helping create businesses. So we're not about growth in and of ourselves, we're about facilitating more and more businesses growing. So we occasionally do it in more cities, but really it's about building businesses that get more sustainable, that create that, exit that turns them into a second-time entrepreneur and a third-time entrepreneur who turns back and starts mentoring the other companies in the ecosystem. So I think it becomes a, self-fulfilling kind of growth vehicle where people are, being able to create economic growth, but also build industry and, contribute to the world. I mean, it does have a grandiose vision, but it's real, it's happening. I mean, real companies are actually already coming out of the program, so it's pretty fun.
So this is for me a little bit more personal than Capital Factory, but to Dr. Metcalf's point, I think 10, 15 years from now we'll have our multi-billion-dollar success company that came out of one of our Austin incubators. So that'll be a great milestone, if not more than one of them. Personally, my goal for 10 years from now is I want to have helped create 1,000 millionaires. And that's my way to $1 billion. And it's not like it's all about the money, but I think there's a lot that comes with that. And to me, that's like giving 1,000 people like freedom. That's like their own, personal independence and the ability to go kind of do whatever they want. And once you do that the first time, most people go do that another time. And so that's my own personal metric is I want to be able to point to 1,000 people that I help them kind of achieve their entrepreneurial vision.
I think, our vision is to be the consumer products programming community in the world, and we're looking at what that looks like. My personal vision is to change and impact lives one product at a time. And I think that, we're in a process now, we're 3 years old, we're just a baby, and we're going into our own strategic development of how to do that and what does that look like. And I also really have the belief, like Josh, I haven't put the millionaires on that, but one of the things about consumer products is there's a lot of people, the barrier to entry to create a consumer product doesn't have to be, it's low. You can make a cookie, or you can come up with something that you need to solve a personal issue in your life, and that can end up impacting a lot more people than you, but a lot of these people don't know how to build businesses. So they can build a product, but they can't build a business. And that's really what I want to help them do so that we can make an impact. That's what it's about.
Last but not least.
It's a tough one. I'm not a prognosticator. I think the healthcare, medicine, this town is going to be like it is now, just bigger. And I think we're going to see niches with Cimatech, semiconductor was, MCC, enterprise software was and still is. The creation of the medical school and the innovations that are coming there, I think you're going to see Austin competing, not immediately, but in the next 5, 10 years with the likes of Boston and San Francisco, San Diego when it comes to healthcare, life science innovation. We're going to continue to dominate in energy. Water is going to become a bigger part of that equation when it comes to energy. The young lady behind you, Andrea Riccardi, is going to have a big role in helping make Austin a part of that. I also think in 10 years, I don't know that you're going to be able to tell the difference between San Antonio and Austin. Kyle and other cities in between here and there are going to be just part of this big megapolis. And if it's Hyperloop or self-driving cars or whatever, we're going to be getting in between these cities really quickly as well. So I look forward to that. Or Bezos flies around in his drones. One of the
On that note of future looking, thank you all so much for being a part of our evening, and thank you to our panelists and to Rice Alliance.